With Father's Day coming this weekend, I felt compelled to devote this episode to my dad, who passed away over a decade ago. My dad was an immigrant, and he was dealt a tough hand early on. He lost his mom when he was a toddler, and his father had little resources and little money. My dad had very little education, and that resulted to not being fluent in English. That itself is a challenge coming over to the US in the 1950s. But despite those challenges, my dad managed to open and own a laundromat and dry cleaning business. It wasn't just to make a living, but it was to support and secure the future of his family. Now, growing up, I admit that my father was tough. He was really, really tough. And I have to say he was pretty hard on my two older brothers, probably because they were 11 and 8 years older than me, and of course, because they were boys. But in his view, his toughness was a shield. It was a shield that he used to protect us during a time when gang activity was on the rise. By today's standards, his parenting style would certainly be considered harsh, but he had no point of reference. He didn't grow up with a mother, and his father was mostly absent. In fact, he was raised by his aunt and uncle. He only had one goal, and that goal was to provide for his family and ensure our safety. Just to illustrate the point of his parenting style, I will say there is this hysterical, accurate video by Jimmy Yang that I can't help watch over and over. And I want to play that clip for you.
My girl asked me, she was like, babe, what's your love language? I'm like, what? She's like, your love language. Like, how do you convey love to your partners and loved ones? Like, for example, a love language could be words of affirmation. Words of affirmation? I was raised by Asian parents. I've never heard one word of affirmation in my life. Nobody ever told me, Jimmy, you're so great, you can do it. They're like, don't fuck it up. Their love language was verbal abuse.
I can't help but crack up every time I see that video. The accuracy of that sketch just hits home and is on target. And I'll tell you one of my own stories. It was back when I was in college and I was doing an internship in the city. And I was taking a subway from the city back home. It was a hot summer night in July, and I was in one of those subway trains where there was no air conditioning. And it was sardine packed. I was standing. All of a sudden, the train stops and it just went dark. The lights all went out and we were stuck inside the tunnel. And it got to a point after a while where people started to panic. They were pounding on the windows and I started to feel a panic attack happening. And I've never experienced it before. And this woman thankfully saw that I was having this panic attack and she had me sit down in her seat and she just calmed me down. We took deep breaths together and finally they opened one door per train and we had to walk on the catwalk in complete darkness and keep walking until we saw light, which was at the end of the tunnel. It was terrifying. So when I got home, I was obviously upset. And I was telling my parents what I went through, and I was expecting the comfort. That didn't exactly happen. The first thing that they said was, okay, dinner's ready, go set the table. So as my parents got older and then became grandparents, an amazing transformation took place. They totally softened up, and they showed warmth and affection that I have never seen before. So perhaps grandchildren have that magical effect. I recall one instance where my parents reprimanded my brother, insisting that he speak to his children with a calm voice and to avoid yelling. I would laugh and say, wait, what? What did you say? Thinking of all the times we were yelled at. And then they would say, oh, we didn't know any better. They also told my brothers to let their kids explore and participate in activities. They wouldn't even let me go away for college or do any after-school activities. We had to come straight home after school. There were no school activities, no play dates, no sleepovers. And again, they said, oh, we didn't know better. So it's pretty funny how they changed their tune and changed their love language. Thinking back to those times, There are two key insights that I'd like to share with you. The first is about my father's stern demeanor. While he was unquestionably tough, and like I said, even more so with my brothers, we hold absolutely no resentment about our upbringing. Now, I know people have grudges about their past, and they might resent some of their parents' choices. Yes, our father was a strict disciplinarian, but it came from a place of needing to protect us. Had he been lenient, it's possible that our lives may have taken an entirely different trajectory, potentially a less favorable one, through working 6 days a week, 13-hour days. In the end, he supported us through college, helped us with our homes, always prioritizing family above all. We remain deeply grateful for his sacrifices and for providing the foundation that has shaped our lives today. The second insight is about transformation. Now, my father transitioned from a strict disciplinarian to someone who was tender and affectionate. This transition was truly heartwarming. And when I look back at that transition, I only wish that that transformation would take place in the world that we live in today. Today, we observe people turning from compassionate beings to being cold and mean. It seems that we've lost our ability to demonstrate kindness, to express gratitude. And I think we really need to bring awareness to this. In my entire life, I've never seen the divide or the cruelty of the world today. We can only change by one human at a time. Let's not let the harshness of others dampen our spirits or taint our approach to life. We still have to instill kindness within our own circles to hopefully change the tune of compassion that this world so desperately needs. So I do hope and pray this world will transform as my dad did. And I like to end with wishing all dads a wonderful Father's Day. And though my dad is no longer with us, I am so grateful for all that he's done for the family and that his grandchildren still have so many memories that they continue to relive, especially his laughter and the joy he brought to them. And from someone who really didn't have a lot in his life, I'll never forget that one quiet moment we had in the last month of his life, which is that he told me he has received everything he ever wanted in life. Happy Father's Day, Pop.